Welcome to Leadership and Life Chat with your hosts, me, Becky Ames.
And me, Mark Curtis. In each episode, we'll be illustrating how success in leadership is inextricably linked with success in life.
Whether it's leadership in business, society, family or friends, we're all leaders.
Using our experiences and a range of expert guests, we will share secrets to boosting your health, wealth and self.
So let's get on with the show.
It seems to me that work, life and leadership, they're gradually getting more stressful by the day. So we've got a guest today who spent a whole career specialising in helping people to thrive. Now that person is Tony Burgess from the Academy of High Achievers, or AHA. No Alan Partridge jokes, please. Now I've had the privilege of attending one of Tony's programmes, and we'll hear a bit more about that later on. Two of Tony's guiding light principles are living fully alive and shining brighter. So Tony, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you, Mark. Nice to see you.
It's great to have you here. So before we actually get into the meaty topic today, Tony, would you like to just share with the listeners a little bit more about your background and your story?
Yeah, sure. Straight from school, I went to university to learn psychology, and that got me really, really fascinated about the potential of the human brain, the human mind, our emotional states, and so on. And after the degree, I was really curious about application. That was the thing that I just really wanted to be using psychology, not just knowing about it. I trained as a hypnotherapist, and I was just so glad I got that toolkit early on, and then went on to learn about NLP. Some people might know about neuro-linguistic programming, and all kinds of tools along the way. And in 2012 came across another one called Havening Techniques. And so a blend of, in terms of my work, therapeutic work, coaching work, and training, it tends to be a blend of NLP and Havening now. They're the two go-to places for the change work that I do with people. I mean, people are just magnificent. And for me, to help unlock some of that is just such a privilege. And it just gives me joy every day to be able to work in that arena.
Fantastic. I mean, NLP is something which we've talked about on this show quite a bit. So the previous host, James, and myself are NLP practitioners. And I think the more I've got into business, the more I've realized it's not about business, it's about people, and people is all about psychology. And in some ways, I think, really, this is the sort of stuff I wish I'd have learned in school rather than when I got into my 30s and 40s, because it's just about what makes people tick, and we're dealing with people all the while. So yeah, I'm completely with you on your journey. And Tony, we, as I said in the intro, we first met when I attended one of your Havening courses, and I think when we were in initial dialogue, I think you were sort of asking me, well, you're an accountant, Mark, where does Havening fit in with your business, sort of thing, and we had a really interesting discussion about, well, actually almost this discussion we've just had, which is, I've come full circle, which is I might be an accountant by trade, but actually I'm dealing with people, and the more tools I can have to help me deal with myself, because I'm a person, and my team and my clients, then it just gives me something else to help people with, and ultimately I'm in the business of helping people, as is Becky. So I mentioned there, I came across Havening. My wife did, actually, Glenda, and I thought, this is interesting. And then I was looking for courses, and you were top of the Google search, Tony. So we then got in touch. So there you go. There's some good feedback on your SEO. So I'm conscious we're talking about Havening here. I suspect there's a reasonable chance that a proportion of the listeners are not going to have a clue what we're talking about. So would you like to enlighten the listeners, and possibly Becky, who's looking slightly mystified as well, what Havening is, a little bit of the background about it, and then I think probably we can, because we go out on YouTube as well as through the podcast platforms, we can probably do some demos of some of the techniques, and certainly maybe even use Becky as our guinea pig for some.
Ah, great, wonderful. Yeah, I mean, the term itself, havening, it comes from the concept of a safe haven. And what we've basically got is power in our own hands to be able to create a safe haven in our brain and nervous system. And that's priceless. As a self-help tool, it's got incredible uses, and we can talk more about that. But also, there's some really incredible therapeutic applications of it too. People who are dealing with trauma or carrying overwhelm and stress in their system, it can really help to release that and allow them to get back on with their life. But it's really you harnessing the power of touch. So I said we've got power in our hands to create this safe haven in our brain. It literally is about applying touch to face, arms and shoulders, and also the palms of the hands. So, we give ourselves a round of applause perhaps from time to time. It's really interesting that generates a brain state change. And we kind of do it without thinking, but it has an effect in the brain. And we know that if we were to reassure a friend, we might just put a hand on their shoulder. If we were wanting a child to get off to sleep, we might just stroke their cheek. And we kind of know it intuitively how to soothe others. And we might put our head in our hands, if we're feeling stressed, or we might wring our hands if we're, a bit nervous. It's like there's a part of us that knows where to go to get that self-soothing. And the wonderful thing is, in terms of putting havening as a toolkit together, is we've got a window into what's actually happening when we do this intuitive soothing of self and soothing of others. It changes brain wave activity and it releases a different kind of brain chemistry, all in the direction of soothing. And that means timeless wisdom has really now been supported by neuroscience view into the actual brain and nervous system. And we're going to get more and more. The more research we do, the closer we'll get the answers, if you like, as to exactly how different aspects of it are working. And that's exciting times. I've been involved in that myself with Nottingham Trent University, and ultimately the people we get to work with are just getting great results for themselves, and they've got their own hands to take away to keep that alive as well. Isn't it wonderful that it's like, you've got it wherever you go.
It's very portable then.
Yeah, very portable. Exactly.
So I don't need any equipment or anything. No, nothing.
Not at all. And of course, people have become touch starved over times like in the pandemic. And, to be able to show how we can create the effects in the brain and nervous system, that natural kind of reassuring touch, amongst friends and family and so on, for those who have been isolated alone in their own apartments or, in their own homes and, just not getting the connection through touch that is the most natural form of reassurance from the right person, obviously, and with the right permissions. But, that if we look to the great apes, they spend much of their day, grooming and in that reassuring touch, and it's having profound effect on brain and nervous system, not just taking off the ticks and things like that. It's bonding. Some of your listeners may have heard of the brain chemistry of serotonin and oxytocin and GABA. These are the brain's natural feel-good chemicals, and it's stimulated through touch receptors. And the brainwave activity that goes also with this particular kind of soothing touch is a very slow kind of brainwave that tends to happen in adults in deep sleep, slow wave sleep it's called. It's called delta waves, a very slow, reassuring, replenishing kind of brainwave activity. And it's almost like we're mimicking this replenishing form of sleep, but in the waking state. So the more we get to understand it, the more we can harness it and put it to work for us, both in clearing stuff that's burdening us, but also in building resilience and positivity into our system so that we're less likely to be got by life. That allows us to come out with our best performance, the best joy in our day, and really bringing our offering to the world more easily and effortlessly.
Yeah, and I think, Tony, when we met, one of the things I mentioned was at Larking Gowen, we have a wellbeing program which we've run for several years, and we've introduced different strands to it. And one of my really kind of key things I wanted to get out of the program with yourself was, is there something really simple which I can take back to the office, talk to our HR team about, which we can weave into our wellbeing program, just to help people when they feel in that slightly heightened state, when they feel a bit overwhelmed, just something they can do in the moment to just maybe help just bring them down a notch or two. And that was, and I think the big takeaway I had from your program was that, this is not complicated. As you say, this is intuitive. It's stuff we do without knowing we're doing it. But if we then consciously harness that, we can use it on demand rather than just, because intuitively we happen to touch a face or something. And that was the bit I loved about it. And, and I can update you that our HR team are incredibly interested in this, and they're going to roll it out to our firm. And this podcast, when it goes out, is going to be part of the program for people to listen in and learn more about it as well. So that's absolutely fantastic. So firstly, thank you for the program. I really enjoyed it. It was practical. There was good theory in there as well to back it up with the science. So first of all, big shout out for that program. It was fantastic. I really enjoyed it, and it's made a difference to our business. So just coming back to that, if I think perhaps it would be a good time now maybe to introduce some of the basic techniques, because once people have got the basic techniques, they don't have to go any further with it if they don't want to. And we'll talk about state management and such like in a little while, I suspect. But would it be a good time maybe just to introduce the basic principles of how we actually do it now?
Yeah, sure. I'll describe it as well as, obviously, if it's going on YouTube, people will get to see it. But one of the moves, it's about the sort of pace that you might reassuringly stroke a cat or a dog. If you were wanting to have them snuggle up on your lap or something and just rest easily, there'd be a pace to that, wouldn't it? It'd be slow and it'd be gentle. And in the same way, when we're doing these moves, it's just a kind of slow, gentle application of the touch. And so when it's the face, it's really about as if you were just gently washing the face. So I've got glasses on. I can work around them. Some people don't like to take their glasses off because, it's one of their main senses that they want to keep. So I can kind of work around the glasses. I'm just stroking my forehead. I'm stroking my cheeks just gently. But equally, I could take my glasses off and, really get like under the eyes. And just like with palms of my hands, with the fingertips, there's no absolute right way to do this. It is just about stimulating in a soothing way the skin receptors on the face. So just a gentle kind of washing of the face with the palms and fingertips that generates actually 90 times the baseline level of delta waves. I mean, that's a big increase. The great thing is we don't actually need a huge increase for there to be great benefits, but the face is the one that generates the most delta wave for most people. And so that's one move. The next one is the shoulders and the arms. And so what we do is we like cross our arms over. So I'm touching my left shoulder with my right hand, and my right shoulder with my left hand. It's like crossed over in the middle, and it's like I'm giving myself a little hug. But what we do then is we just move our palms from the shoulders down towards our elbows. So it's just from the shoulder down to the elbows. Then we take our hands up, move them back up to the shoulders. So the direction of movement, it's a bit like you wouldn't want to stroke a cat or a dog the wrong way. It would start to irritate them. And there's a kind of a subjective aspect that people tend to like it to be stroking down. So stroking from the shoulders down to the elbow. Then we'll take our hands off and go back up to the shoulders. And then it's another stroke down. And it's just like giving ourselves a nice, gentle, warm, soothing hug. With a little bit of movement thrown in. So that's stimulating the skin receptors in the upper arms and shoulders. And that generates, it varies actually, partly I think to do with clothing that people are wearing, thicker clothing, thinner clothing, bare arms or not, that kind of thing will affect how closely you're stimulating the skin receptors. Well, actually, it works really well through, a thinnish jumper. That would be fine. Probably not with your duffel coat on. That would make it a bit harder. But between 5 and 38 times the level of delta waves, like the baseline. So again, a significant noticeable increase. And the third one is simply rubbing your palms together, just slowly, gently. There's no particular right or wrong way to do it. Some people, have a preference to do it one way or another. Some people do it in circles. Some people vary it as they go. It's really just about palm to palm, just moving gently. And generates 5 times the level of baseline delta waves. So each of the moves is very, very simple. A bit of a wash of the face, a wash of the palms, and then give ourselves a hug from the shoulders, just sweeping down to the elbows, then back up to the shoulders and sweeping down. They are essentially the moves of havening. There are different components to it, depending on how we're harnessing the power of this touch, what we're going to utilize it for. So when we're clearing trauma or we're clearing stress and overwhelm from the system, we also combine it with some distractions. So we kind of get the soothing in whilst our mind is thinking of something more neutral or positive. We kind of activate the area of the brain that stored the overwhelm or the trauma. That's all we need. And we don't want people to have to relive traumatic events and things like that. So once we've activated it, it's just let's take them attentional system into neutral absorption, if you like, in a task. Simple could be going on a little walk in your mind's eye, or it could be going through the alphabet, naming animals beginning with A, B, C, D. We tend to guide that when we're working with our clients. But there's also links. I could send a link to you to pass on to any of your listeners that is like some guided videos actually for self-havening, just to reset a bit of a reboot if we notice we're a little bit stressed, or we're noticing a bit of anxiety for some reason just creeping in. We can give ourselves a bit of a reboot and take ourselves back to calm. They're the moves. I don't know if you want to explore a particular aspect of application further at this point.
Can I ask some questions?
Yeah, go for it, Becky. I was going to say, are you still awake, Becky? I'd want to make sure you hadn't.
I found that one. Yeah. No, really soothing. It's kind of, It's so Mark had mentioned this before and given me a brief outline of what he. So, is it better to practice these regularly, or is it to use in the moment when you're feeling stressed? Have it in your toolkit. How do people get the best results from this?
Yeah, I mean, I would say both. It's a tool to be used when you're noticing that something's needing our attention. I'm noticing that stress is creeping up. But actually, in terms of prevention, keeping our brain and nervous system in a resilient space, daily practices would be really, really helpful. So we tend to suggest some things, just combining with some really simple things that you might say to yourself. So, for example, we could be applying the touch. Oh, and by the way, I should just say that if for any reason someone finds one of the 3 moves a little bit uncomfortable or anything, say someone might have a skin condition on their arm. So it's like, I don't want to rub my arm. It's fine. Just do the face and hands if that was the case. Or if for whatever reason someone's, I don't know, put their makeup on. And it's like, it's like, I don't want to be rubbing my face when I've just done that. Again, you could just do the arms and hands, so you can choose. But we might just combine this touch whilst saying something very simple. So people are pretty good at torturing themselves with what-if questions. So people will tend to, what if it all goes wrong? What if I'm not good enough? What if people don't like me or whatever? People are pretty good at torturing themselves in that way. But we can also harness the power of a what if and just put it in a better direction. So we could say, what if I'm ready for a really good meeting with my colleagues? What if I'm more ready than I'm giving myself credit for? What if today could work out to be a day full of opportunity? What if I, create some really good energy in the office today? What if I experience the best of myself today? You can see it's just like we make up ones that are going to be most useful for ourselves, but just some simple what if questions whilst applying the touch, which is making the brain very receptive to, it's like a biological thumbs up. It's like a little biological bit of oil on the cogs. It's like, yeah, you can have that. You're in a safe haven as you're saying these things. We'll let that into the filing cabinet. And over time, what we're doing with repetition is that we're getting neurons that fire together, wire together. And so we're getting a default kind of aspect of our lens is looking for the possibilities that are the best of our day and the best of ourselves, rather than the torture device of what if. There are other simple ones that would be very easy for listeners to harness. So, for example, what we could do is practice accessing some gratitude as we're applying the touch. So this could be gratitude for things in the past, gratitude for things in the present, or what's to come. So I might say something like, thank you for all of the people who have supported me in my life so far. Thank you for the harsh lessons that have helped me to grow. Thank you for the opportunity that arises in my day today. And also, thank you for the great stuff that's coming my way that I haven't even thought of yet. And, it's just, I always tend to think of it in terms of the timeline, past, present, and future. And most people would say, yeah, I'm grateful for aspects of my life, but they're not practicing the benefits of actually spending time in gratitude as an experience. And again, that again changes chemistry. It releases a nice little shot of dopamine as well as serotonin. And with this touch, it's just, again, like a biological thumbs up. It's like, yeah, let that in. Let those neurons connect into gratitude. And you can imagine that just doing that simply, just a few minutes each day, it changes that lens.
They are just like 5-minute daily practices, aren't they? The what if is one I have used off the back of the program with you, Tony. I think it's a nice, easy one to be able to use. What if this, like you say, what if this meeting does go well? Because it's easy for us to fall into, I'm a bit worried about this meeting, but what if it goes well? It really does set you up, and you can do it in, you could be sitting in your car about to go into the meeting, just 2 or 3 minutes of this. And you just get yourself really primed for the meeting and for your day as well. Gratitude, I love gratitude anyway. We actually did another podcast called The Attitude of Gratitude, and we basically plagiarized Dr. Andrew Huberman. We gave him credit about the neuroscientist and how gratitude really works. The other one is I practice affirmations around it. I used to do affirmations anyway, but now I combine some of the havening technique with affirmations as well. The other one, which I've done quite regularly, and I can't remember what it was called from the course, where you just basically you're doing the techniques, and then you say the word like you're feeling, you express it as a word, and I find that I'm actually more honest with myself when I'm doing that. So very often it could be, I think I want to be in a calm state. I'm thinking I want to be calm. Actually, I feel a bit agitated. So when I'm then doing the havening technique and I'm saying the word which is coming from within, it could be like agitated, calming, soothing. And I can't remember what that was called, but I find that really does work in terms of, I guess it's as the delta waves kick in, it can, and maybe we can explore state management as well. But I've found that I've been using that for state management. I don't know if I've been using it correctly. And you may say, right, you need to come back on another program, Mark.
Well, no, there's a type of havening called transpirational havening, where it's, if you think about a tree, and transpiration is where it draws up water through the roots, it kind of passes through the trunk, and then releases through the leaves into the atmosphere. And in a similar way, we've got some lurking stuff, we've got some lurking stress, maybe some lurking shame, guilt. We carry stuff around as human beings that just lingers in the system. And if we don't find an outlet for it in a healthy way, it pops up when it's least helpful. Just when we don't need it, there it raises its head. So transpirational is one actually we tend to encourage people to do with a practitioner, actually, because sometimes when we take the lid off a group of overwhelming feelings that have been maybe pushed down, sometimes a lot comes up. And so it's kind of a safer environment if someone's there to guide you through that and reassure you through the process. And once we've created space by like emptying the overwhelm bucket, it means that the positives can take root more effectively. Like you said about affirmations, I think it's really important when we do affirmational work that we do it in a way that feels authentic. Because if we actually get up in the morning and we're feeling a bit grumpy and not so great about ourselves, and we just say, I'm amazing, I'm amazing, I'm amazing, there's a part of us that just goes, no, you're not, no, you're not, no, you're not. And it becomes hard work. So instead of that inner tug of war, if we can do it in a way that, so a what if could be, what if I'm better than I've been telling myself? It's like just throwing some juicy bait into the neuronal pond, if you like, as I describe it, into the neuronal system. And it's like, let's just see what nibbles at that. I don't have to fully believe it yet. It's just getting the concepts in there. So I could also say, I invite more calm into my day. I intend to access my confidence better today. I welcome my best qualities to show up in this meeting. So it's kind of like I invite it, I welcome it, I notice it, I intend it, and it's just allowing it to come forth without it being like, yes, I'm perfect and it's already fully here and I'm experiencing it fully. I mean, I believe that human beings are, treasure filled and it is an access job. We need to be able to bring it shining into the world in a way that feels authentic, rather than we're sometimes it can feel a bit like we're just making it up. And our system likes authenticity. Our system is good at noticing if something is off. So the daily practices. If someone wanted to work with a practitioner to clear some stuff. Sometimes people will say, I used to be the life and soul of the party. I used to be so confident. I used to be someone who was really quite calm and had perspective. And now in my life, it's like, that's gone. Now it's still in there, but we've got to be able to access it again. And what we can do is that transpirational stuff takes out the stress that's in the way of kind of opening the gates on those best qualities. And havening touch is just like that biological oil on the cogs of that process.
So, Tony, is it a case of you have to deal with the negative aspects, the stress, before you can get the full benefit of releasing the positive aspects in those scenarios that you've been speaking about there? And that's when you talk about working with a practitioner, presumably over a period of time. Is that how it would work?
Yeah, it's where it will ease the process of the positives taking root, really. If we're jam-packed with stress, it's like there's not much room in there. There's not much wiggle room. And if we do some emptying first, and some of that might be trauma for some people who have had some incredibly challenging experiences in life, and or the cumulative effects of, I don't know, maybe tight deadlines, overworking, money problems, and the things that chip away that can equally create a lot of tension in the system. So it's that combined effect of clearing and then creating the space. It's like, I suppose if you were doing some gardening, it's like, let's clear the weeds, and then we can create a seed bed that's going to have more taking root and growth.
Thank you.
It can be quite a quick thing, though, to help someone to have a good clear out. Obviously some of our clients have got, complex layers of trauma that, may involve us working with them over a longer period of time. Well, a lot of people just haven't found an outlet for their cumulative stress over time, and we can have a really good clear out. And people report after a session like that, wow, I just feel a lightness and a freedom. Often 2 or 3 days later, we'll say, yeah, my partner said, oh, you're whistling in the car again. You haven't heard you whistle or sing for ages. It's surprising how often that one comes up. It's almost like that doesn't happen if you haven't got some lightness within your system. And so people start laughing more, and it's like, oh, I'm back. Yeah.
That needs to become a habit, almost the havening, a discipline. It's not like I do it once and I'm clear of my stress.
Sure. I mean, actually, of course, when we're helping someone to remove some traumatic events from their life, that's kind of, when that's gone, it's gone. And it's wonderful to permanently remove that kind of burden. But of course, we do know life's going to keep bringing us some stresses and strain. That's it. Yeah. So it's there's a maintenance aspect to that, and that smaller stuff. When you've experienced like a big clear out with a practitioner, it's then you understand how you could use it just for yourself in the smaller maintenance way.
Yeah, I think maintaining for me there is a key point to understanding how to get the benefit from that. Yeah, I can see that. Absolutely. Thank you. So, Tony, if I wanted to build this into my everyday life and have something that I wanted to practice regularly, what would you suggest to sort of maintain a level of resilience and all the things we've been talking about?
Yeah. Okay, great. So we can do this together now, actually. I'll take you through it. So there's a bit of clearing, and then we'll put some positives in the other side. Okay, so we can apply the touch to the face, the arms, the palms. It doesn't really matter which order you do it, or if you've got a particular preference for one over the other, just do more of whatever works for you. That's fine. And so we're applying the touch, and what we're going to do is just do a little bit of a body scan in our mind's eye. I close my eyes to do this just to concentrate, but whatever works for you is fine. Just notice any tension or stress that might be within our system. Just noticing it. And we can give it a score from 0, there's no stress in my system, to 10. Oh, yeah, actually, there's a lot of stress in my system. Just give it a little mental number so you can just notice that level, and we can compare it later. Okay. All right. Have you got the number, Becky?
Yep.
Yep. Okay, great. So we'll carry on applying the touch now, and we're going to go through the alphabet, and we're just going to name things beginning with each letter. So name a place beginning with A, Becky.
Athens.
Yeah, an animal beginning with B.
Beaver.
As a place in the world beginning with C.
Canterbury.
Yeah, great. A food beginning with D.
Donuts.
Yeah, great. A place beginning with E.
Edinburgh.
Yeah, a boy's name beginning with F.
Fred.
Yeah, a girl's name beginning with G.
Georgina.
Okay, so what we'll do is we continue kind of going through the alphabet like that. That's one way you can easily just fill your attentional system while we're getting these delta waves in and the associated chemistry. But what I'll do is I'll switch it now a little so that our listeners get a chance to know what else they could do. So let's just close our eyes and let's imagine ourselves in a really lovely place where you could go for a walk.
Okay.
Have you chosen a place?
Yeah.
Wonderful. So what I want you to do is just as you walk around this lovely place, I want you to notice what you can see that you particularly like about this place. Just maybe tell me 2 or 3 things that you like about this place, Becky.
So I'm walking through woods and I can see the sun coming through the leaves, and just sort of the dappled shade, and the quiet. How the ground feels under my feet and sounds.
You're already making it multi-sensory. I was about to ask you what you could notice, through your other senses, and you're already noticing how quiet it is. You're noticing the feeling of your feet on the ground. Any other little sounds you can pick up if you listen really carefully in this space?
I can hear, birds and the gentle leaves moving in the wind, the rustle.
Wonderful. And then just because we can, sometimes we notice the temperature of the day that we're out and about. What would is it warm or cold or?
It's sort of spring. The warmth is building. The sun's coming through a bit more now.
Nice.
Everything's coming back to life a bit.
And sometimes there's even things that we can smell and taste. Just in the air. Just get a sense of the atmosphere there.
Yeah, that sort of fresh feeling of spring and things coming alive.
Wonderful. So 2 very simple things that people can do as a sort of distraction, fill in their attention loop, go through the alphabet naming things, or take themselves onto a little bit of an imaginary walk and just notice things through their senses, which you did. You went straight into that beautifully. And then we can just check in, okay, let me just notice again now, a body check. What level have I got now of any stress or tension? What score would I give it?
It has reduced. It's definitely reduced.
Okay, yeah. So quite quickly we start to notice it change. What we can do then is we can just do a little longer on this. If we want, we can go back into, keep it simple. Just choose another lovely place to go for a walk and notice what we notice, or go through the alphabet again. This time, just naming things differently. Come up with a different A, B, C, D. So the reason I've said those 2 is because they're easy to apply really quickly and easily. What we can do then, we create a bit of space. Now we can move into sowing some positive seeds. So if I just say, what if? And you just say a positive one that you would like to have for yourself. So, what if, Becky?
What if today is a good day and we get through the stuff we need to get through and work.
Fantastic. And now if you were to think about a quality within yourself you'd like to bring forward, what would that be?
It's about, making sure that the positive mindset is there and don't allow the negativity in.
Yeah. So I invite my positive mindset. Yeah. I welcome my positive mindset. I intend my positive mindset. Do you want to just say a few of those?
I do welcome my positive mindset. And consciously, bring that to the fore.
Fabulous. So, we can do some thank yous at the end of that. We've done some inviting, we're intending, and we can just put, thank you that I've got qualities I can bring to the day.
Yeah.
What would you like to say? Thank you for what? What would you like to say?
Thank you for having the confidence and learning the skills to be able to bring that positive mindset out and thinking differently about the things that I can do for myself. Yeah.
So we can basically do some what ifs. We can do some intending and inviting of qualities forward, and then we can do some thank yous out the other side. All of those are options. If someone particularly likes the gratitudes, they could just fill that loop with gratitude. If it was inviting qualities forward, they could spend longer on that. Or if they really love the what ifing, they could spend time just doing some really positive what ifs.
I like the what ifs.
Good. Yeah, and then we just check in again. Okay, what's my system like now? We've created some space, we've done the weeding, and then we've sown some seeds. How am I feeling in terms of readiness for the day? Has that tension and stress gone down? It's just a really simple reset.
Excellent. That's good. It's great that it's just something you could build in every day. And it's so easy.
Everything that we need. I mean, we've got the power in our hands, and then just a little bit of harnessing our own attention and imagination, and we're there. We've got the ingredients we need in order to have that reset. Really simple, really straightforward. I like simple stuff that works. I always have done. Simple stuff that people can actually take away and use straight away.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's not complicated, is it? It's just about making sure you do it. And like most things, I guess, being disciplined, forming a habit, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely right.
So, but no, it's great. Thank you. I love being the guinea pig.
That's great, isn't it? I mean, I think for the listeners, for anyone who tunes in on this, they've now got a ready-made daily practice which they can do, which will take 5 minutes, and they can really set themselves up. I think the other thing worth just saying, Tony, as you rightly said on the program which I attended, is delta waves are not good or bad; they are just delta waves. So if you want to kind of calm yourself down, just bring yourself down a notch or two, then delta waves are really important to do that. But there's other times where you want your theta waves. If you're in a fight or flight situation, if you need the adrenaline pumping, then you don't want to create a state where you've got high delta waves. So I don't know if you just want to quickly touch on that, because I don't want everyone to be walking around kind of doing Havening all day and just kind of like it's not the whole day, is it?
No. I mean, if you did an extended session on that, actually, you can feel a little bit sleepy for a little while. So yeah, you're absolutely right. And what I tend to do is when we get into the positives, I put a little bit of energy into it as well. So it's like, what if I'm ready for a great day? So although we've got the delta waves as the sort of biological thumbs up to let it in, we're also putting some energy into the mix. You're right. There's times where actually we do need noradrenaline pumping through our system, and we're ready to take on the world. And Havening can help prime that, but I wouldn't do it just before I'm needing to step into the arena and take on a big challenge like that. With all cylinders firing.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you. So I think one of the other things which would be really interesting to explore would be, one of the things I know you've talked about is how we can use Havening for state management. So in NLP, we've talked about it on previous podcasts as well, about how we can use certain NLP techniques to kind of bring us into a state that we want to be in. And how would we potentially use Havening for that as well?
Well, really, just what we've done. What I did with Becky there is a really quick way to manage state. I mean, literally the stroking of arms, face and hands will change state. It changes the chemistry, it changes the brainwave activity as soon as we start applying that touch to face, hands and shoulders. To maximize the benefit of it, it's that little bit of clearing and then sowing those positive seeds.
If you want to just bring the energy up slightly, you can then just change your language and your words around it, just to kind of so you can manage your state within it. So this is so effectively the Havening is like your Victoria sponge recipe, and then the topping you choose to spread on the top is your choice with the words you apply over the top of them.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things that I do most often with clients, I've got a lot of coaching clients in business, and one of the things that I noticed there is that people very, very often haven't nurtured their self-concept very well. So they may be doing all right, but they're doing quite a lot of self-doubt under the surface. This sort of, am I really good enough? And so one of the practices I tend to encourage coaching clients to do as a daily practice is nurture the self-concept in a way, combined with Havening touch, in a way that is authentic. So again, it's not, I'm amazing when you're feeling stressed and down and self-doubting. It's actually more about putting a little line in there that allows it to be very permissive for us to go there. So I'm doing the Havening touch, and I would say, at my very, very, very best, I am. And then we fill in the blank. Because often when people are thinking of themselves, they're thinking of their worst mistakes, their biggest failures, their worst criticisms. And so people struggle to really stay connected to the treasure that really is within them, that unique blend of treasure that's within them. And we've also been educated in life, don't be boastful. Don't say too much positive about yourself, or it'll come across as arrogant. We need to break that pattern. We've got to start to give ourselves permission to speak ourselves up, even if it's only for ourselves between our two ears. We need to be able to acknowledge if we're going to bring our own unique blend of wonderful, magnificent treasure that no one else can bring, by the way. No one else can bring that unique blend that we've got within us. We've got to start shining a light on it and inviting it to come out and play. And one of the ways we can do that is we can have this undeniable evidence of things that have happened. Even if it seemed a long time ago, it was a momentary thing. But, at my very, very best, I am kind. At my very, very best, I am confident. At my very, very best, I am creative. Now, there's no inner battle there because I've got real reference points for me showing up in my life at my very best. I am this, I am that. So it can be reinforced and those neurons connecting around it without a battle, without a tug of war. Now, of course, the sort of little philosophical shift that we then encourage is, what if me at my very, very best is the real me? And anything short of that is just stuff in the way of the real me getting through, So we can start to gravitate towards saying, what, the real me is kind. The real me is capable. The real me is resourceful. The real me is confident. The real me is creative. The real me, we make that transition from me at my very, very best to actually, that is the real me. We've just got to open the gates on that. We've got to access it. So if there was one thing that I would encourage listeners to do as a priority task is get that havening touch going and do some shining a light on your best qualities. And the way to do that without a tug of war is at my very, 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 as many verys as you want, best I am. And it's like, undeniable I am that when I'm on that. On a good day, when I'm in my flow, I'm in my zone, the gates are open on all my treasure. I am that. And it's like the more we acknowledge that instead of worse mistakes, worse criticisms, worse days, which is often where people go to speak of themselves, we're changing a significant lens that has far-reaching effect that affects all kinds of different contexts. It's like putting a stake in the ground that says this is the arena that I belong in, and if it's like magnificent treasure, that's a great arena to be in. If it's the sum of all your worst mistakes and worst criticisms and worst days, then that's a pretty crummy arena we're going to keep bringing ourselves back to. This is really important work and simple. Really simple. At my very, very best, I am. Let's just put that in front of the inner team day after day after day. Our inner team is like, okay, that's what we're doing today. That's what we're bringing today. This is who you are. This is what we're living.
It's inner team.
Yeah.
They're listening.
Yeah.
I mean, this stuff is really resonant. I mean, I think we can all identify with the little voice in the head, which the lack of self-worth, the lack of self-belief, low self-esteem, however you want to phrase it, is something which probably for all of us, if we were honest with ourselves, crops up more than it's healthy for it to crop up, and it's untrue for the most. And Becky, you and I, we've just gone through talent review season at Larking Gowen, and probably out of the talent reviews I did, the one recurring theme, not just this year, but probably for many years, is when you're talking to people, you really start to explore stuff out. Once you get beyond the nuts and bolts about the day job, and you start to really talk about them and what they want to achieve and where they see themselves going, and maybe what are the barriers, self-worth and self-esteem comes out every time. And it's the one thing which I probably come across most, and with clients as well, like having belief in their own business, in their own ability to take the business forward is probably the number one blocker for most careers and businesses that I come across. And some people get through it by grunt. They literally wrestle with this inner self every day. They have a fight with themselves to overcome it, and it's torturous, and they get there. This feels like a much easier way to, and gentle way and kinder way to overcome it and to move forward from those inner voices which are telling you the untruths a lot of the time. So I think it's something which I'm definitely going to start practicing. I love that bit, and it's something which I definitely would like to weave into our wellbeing program and my teams. because I think it could be the number one thing which could unlock their potential, whatever that might mean, not just in a business sense, but in a life sense. How many times do we not take that shot, whatever it might be, because we want to play it safe, because there's the inner voice saying, well, actually, it's pointless you doing that, Mark, because you're never going to amount to a sack of beans. So don't do it. Just don't do it. Don't put yourself through it. And life is about experiences, isn't it? Life is for living. And how much of our life are we not living because of those inner voices just telling us not to do something?
People have 1,000,001 ways to talk themselves into, I'm not good enough. And if we can recognize that in ourselves as inner propaganda, that this is just, it's all it is. I'll even as I catch myself doing it, because, I still do it from time to time. It's just, I'm more aware that it is just inner propaganda. And as I notice it, it's like, you know what, in the back of my mind, I'm saying, I'll be back. It's like, I'll get a bit of an Arnold Schwarzenegger kind of moment, but it's like, I've got this stream of inner propaganda. I might not even be ready to change it in this moment, but I've clocked it. And it's like, you know what? I'm more than that inner propaganda stream. And all I've got to do is access the treasure that's within me. I will be back, and I'll start to shine a light back on it. Again, when I feel inclined to do that at a point in my day, I know that I can steer myself back onto the right path.
I think you're right, Mark. It's a more gentle, it's like being kinder to ourselves, isn't it? Rather than everything just having to be so hard.
It's nurturing, because we've all got an inner child. We really have. And if there was a child in front of us who needed some reassurance and bolstering, we would know intuitively the kinds of things that we need to say. And if we were to just acknowledge, look, within all of us, there is an inner child, and they're just waiting for some nurturing, they're waiting for some acknowledgement, waiting to be invited to bring their best. We just need to do that between our ears, that inner child's listening.
This is good. Okay. So, Tony, the questions that we always ask our guests, we've now got to, if that's okay. So, what 3 books, films, podcasts, sort of any form really, would you recommend to our listeners as being of real value that they could engage with?
Okay, yeah, actually, I knew this question was coming, and I thought, actually, which are the ones, because there's a lot, I read so much good stuff. The ones I've picked are a really enjoyable book called The Alchemist. It's a classic by Paulo Coelho, The Alchemist. If you looked up that in any Google search, you'd come across it. Another one, which is an old book, is called In Tune with the Infinite. In Tune with the Infinite, and it's by Ralph Waldo Trine. It sold millions of copies. It's written in quite old style English, really just jam-packed full of great wisdom. And the third one is called The Complete Works of Florence Scovel Shinn. Again, it's quite an old book, and it was written by a very empowered woman, Florence Scovel Shinn, at a time where it was against the grain to be an empowered woman kind of leading in this kind of bringing personal development, positive mindset, and so on. And the wonderful thing is the whole series of books is written in the she and her, whereas, you think how many books are defaulted to he and I just think it's nice to see that balance put in. It was just, so those would be my 3 recommends if I had to pick 3 from my bookshelf.
And you're a book person, are you, in terms of your preferred?
I like to have a paper copy in my hands,
Proper book.
Yeah. My partner really loves Kindle and things, but I just like it in my hands,
No, I know what you mean. It's great to be able to flip backs and forwards, isn't it? So.
Well, Glenda's going to be really disappointed because I haven't got any of those 3 books, so I'm going to have to put another order in tonight for more books to pitch up to our house. So James has mentioned it previously. I think there's a Japanese word. It's something like soduku or something, which means to collect books but not read them. I think the way it's going, I need to get to about 135 years old to be able to get through all of my book collection. So thank you, Tony, for adding 3 more to that list. So final question before we let you get on with your day. And again, we've given you a bit of heads up on this one, so you could give it some thought. So if you could go back in time and talk to an 18-year-old Tony, what 3 pearls of wisdom would you try and impart on yourself?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I did. I sat down and really thought about this. And the 3 biggies for me would be, first one, choose your meanings, because we tend to automatically assign meaning and it seems so real. But actually, we've really got options to select meanings. What's the best meaning I could give to this? So that would be the first one. The second one is celebrate yourself. Give yourself permission to celebrate yourself. Not enough people are doing that, and it means we're not getting their full treasure brought to the world. That's the second one then. Third one is look for the treasure in other people. As we go around in the world, put that lens on. I'm seeking the treasure within even if they're bringing some pretty limited behaviors in that day because their state is off or whatever. It's like, no, I'm going to be seeking the treasure in you. I know there's more to you than you're currently experiencing or bringing.
I mean, they're 3 very different ones we've had before, which is good. And just personally here, the last one, I love that one. Looking for treasure in other people. I think that the world has got to the point where it's so critical of other people. It's always about pointing fingers and finding faults. Social media seems to drive even more herd mentality of, I'm right, you're wrong, you're not in my crowd, this is not right. And it just feels like if we could all just be a little bit kinder and gentler to each other, and as you say, just look for that. Look for the good, not the bad. It's easy to find the bad in anything in life. If we could just take that time to find the good in people and just connect as humans at a level, that would just be, well, I think we could be in world peace territory at that point. It's like, it doesn't feel like much of a shift to just make a massive difference. I really like that point.
And I really like the second point as well in terms of celebrate yourself, because it's something that we should really encourage young people to do and to make part of their everyday. And it's not about being boastful or arrogant or overconfident, is it? It's about knowing yourself and what you bring and what your potential is, and many aspects
those 2
to
together, they celebrate self but also see the treasure in others. It stops it being arrogance. It stops it being like I'm up here and you're down there. Absolutely.
Let's all help each other get up rather than tearing each other down.
Yes.
And it just reminds me, I think it was probably about 1999, I was on a course and the person, paraphrasing them terribly, they kind of said, if you can't love yourself, how would you expect anybody else to love you? And it all stuck with me, which is, you've got to love yourself, because if you don't like yourself, that's going to manifest itself in your behaviors, your body language, and how can anyone really truly love you if you're that hateful of yourself? And I thought, okay, that's quite an interesting concept. So coming back to celebrate yourself, just learn to love yourself, not in a narcissistic way, but as you say, Becky, but just love yourself for what you are. Well, thank you for that, Tony. As we said, 3 really insightful tips to your 18-year-old self there, which I think we can all take some lessons from. So thank you for coming on the show today. You've been incredibly generous with your time, but also the content which you've shared with the listeners as well. And we've got some real practical takeaways. We didn't move into the therapy side much today because I think, as you said pre-recording, Tony, we don't want to give people too much information to overload them, and potentially, we want to do good off the back of this podcast. So if people want to reach out to you to either attend your courses or maybe talk to you about, more of your therapeutic havening treatments, where's the best place to reach you? And we'll put all of the links in the show notes anyway, but just a shout out for the best place to reach out to you.
Sure, yeah. So my own website is learnhavening.co.uk. Nice and straightforward, that one. And also the HQ's sort of global site about havening is havening.org. And you'd find practitioners around the world, trainers around the world. So there'd be opportunities there to connect with someone who could work with you, especially if you've got some more heavy duty stuff to work on, like some trauma or a lot of overwhelm. Clear the decks with that with a practitioner, and then you can get into your daily practices to maintain resilience and sow those positive seeds.
Brilliant. Thank you. Well, as we said, thank you very much for what you've covered today. in our pre-show discussion, we covered a whole myriad of topics, and I think it's fair to say we've only just touched the iceberg of the skills and techniques that you have available to help other people. And we had a really interesting conversation around language patterns and the use of language. So if you'd be willing, Tony, hopefully we can have you back on the show at a future date, maybe where we cover another topic, but again diving into sort of self-help almost, and what people can do practically to help themselves, but covering another topic.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean, I'm loving how curious and open you are to all of this. Great. Sure.
Thank you. Well, thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Well, Becky, that was a very, very interesting episode, and certainly the most practical episode we've ever had on this show.
I know, it's fascinating, isn't it? I just feel I do feel calmer. I see what he means about, though, you need to you'd have to build the adrenaline up if you were going into something, because I do feel in a calm state.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think as I introed the show on, everyone seems to be more heightened, more stressed, and I think this was a really good antidote for some of that life stuff which is going on at the moment, where we can all just bring it down a notch or two. Because we can build things up in our head. Maybe it's not as bad as what we think, and actually just bringing it down a bit can really help us just see a little bit more clearly. So hopefully the listeners have got some really good practical things to take away from this. So talking of taking away, we're going to do our traditional, the 3 things that we took away from the episode. So what's the first thing that you took away, Becky?
That point that you just said there, Mark, really about how practical it is and how easy it could be to just build it into your everyday, so that you've got it in your toolkit ready to go. You don't need any equipment. You don't even really need, you don't have to change what you're wearing or anything like that. You can just do it wherever you are quite easily without drawing too much attention to yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
It's really accessible for anyone, isn't it?
Yeah, and when I was doing the program, Tony, one of the things he was saying is that if you're about to go into a meeting and you just want to bring it down a notch, or even if you're in the meeting, you can always do the sort of just rubbing the palms together in a meeting without anyone even noticing, So it's something you can do inconspicuously, even in the midst of a meeting. So yeah, I'm with you. That's fantastic. So coming on to the second one, the thing I took away was Tony's third point around advice to his 18-year-old self, which was the look for the treasure in other people. And I just think if we just look for the good in people a little bit more, it could make a positive difference. And sometimes when we're more heightened ourselves, it's easy to clamp on to a negative. And I think the havening, bringing us down, just getting us into a slightly calmer state, probably makes us more likely to see the treasure in other people anyway, because we're looking through a different lens at that point from our own eyes. Yeah,
I agree. And then my other takeaway would be Tony's second point, actually, to his 18-year-old self, but that linked back to the celebrate yourself and have the positive aspects when you're using the havening techniques of what if this could be, a great day. What if I do achieve what I need to? What if I present in the way that I know I can? And it's about really giving yourself sort of that permission based on what you can do, and building that into your arsenal really to take yourself forward.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so many tools we can add to our toolkit off the back of that episode. Yeah. And there's more to come as well. Tony's skill set is way beyond what we covered today. And in the show notes, there'll be all of the links to Tony's websites, how to reach out to Tony. So we would encourage you to take a look at those and reach out to Tony if you want to discuss this further. Tony's also mentioned that he's going to send some links to some videos which are going to help with some of these techniques as well. So check out that resource. It's really valuable. Finally, we have to say a big thank you to our sponsors, Larking Gowen. Without Larking Gowen, this show wouldn't be possible. So check out their website to see how their team of experts can help you and your business. So that just leaves me to say, have a great week, be kind to yourself, and boost your health, wealth, and self.